Picture this, a small Christian village in the Balkans. Morning mist still clings to the fields. Children are chasing chickens in the yard. Then, hoofbeats. Ottoman officials ride in, ledgers in hand. They're not here for taxes, not for food, not for gold. They're here for children. One mother throws herself across her doorway. Another drags her son into the woods, hoping to hide him. But it's no use. Soldiers fan out, calling names, counting heads. They don't need to shout, they have lists. They know exactly how many boys live here and how old they are. By nightfall, dozens are gone. A priest kneels in the square, weeping. The village falls silent, as if emptied of breath itself. This wasn't a raid. It wasn't banditry. It was policy. A system that turned children into slaves, soldiers, eunuchs, and lovers, reshaping their bodies, their identities, and their very futures. Every few years, the Ottomans conducted the Devshirme, or blood tax. It sounds almost mythical, but it was terrifyingly bureaucratic. Officials carried ledgers. Each village was assigned a quota. How many households, how many boys of age, when the last collection happened. Children were recorded like wheat harvests. The youngest and most beautiful were targeted first. Some as young as 4, torn from their mother's arms. Older brothers watched helplessly, knowing their turn was coming. Survivor accounts speak of the silence that followed. One boy, taken at 8, later wrote, "I forgot my mother's face within a year, but I remember her scream every day." Once seized, children were forbidden from speaking their native tongue. They were renamed, converted, and drilled until their past lives blurred into shadows. The empire didn't just take their bodies, it erased them, leaving blank slates to be rewritten as Ottomans. Not all boys met the same fate. Their destinies were divided with chilling precision. The strongest, Janissaries. They became the Sultan's elite corps, forbidden to marry, forbidden to form families. Their loyalty was to the state alone. Training was relentless. Hours of drilling, punishments for disobedience, sleep broken by midnight inspections. Desire was officially forbidden, but in practice, controlled. The secret Chival Battalion organized homosexual relationships within the ranks. Even intimacy became part of the empire's machine. The most beautiful, palace boys. Some were castrated. The procedure was so brutal that 9 out of 10 died. Those who survived lived scarred, mutilated, and bound to the Sultan's household. African boys, turned into black eunuchs, were placed as harem guardians, stripped entirely of manhood. European boys, the white eunuchs, often rose to powerful administrative positions, yet power never erased the humiliation of their mutilation. The performers, Kochek dancers, dressed as women, they entertained the Ottoman elite with songs and dances. In glittering garments, they twirled in torchlight, while men laughed and drank. But behind the applause was exploitation. Many were assaulted, humiliated publicly, treated as toys in silk. Each boy's path was different, but all served the same purpose: to feed the Sultan's appetite for loyalty, control, and flesh. The most disturbing of all were the Tavşan, literally bunny boys. They were chosen purely for their beauty, brought into the palace with no rank, no training, no protection. Their sole purpose, the sexual gratification of high-ranking officials. They existed outside the law, invisible except when summoned. And they were only one part of a wider economy. Across Ottoman cities, vast slave markets thrived. Women and children were sold like livestock. A pale-skinned European girl fetched a fortune. An African girl, often destined for labor, sold for far less. At the pinnacle of this grim hierarchy were the odalisks, concubines trained in seduction, competing for the Sultan's attention. To outsiders, they glittered in jewels and silks. But inside the harem, life was deadly. Rivalries ended in poisonings. Infanticide was common. Children of African mothers were especially at risk, their deaths quietly accepted. The harem was less a paradise of pleasure than a battlefield of survival. What makes this chilling isn't just cruelty, it's bureaucracy. The empire counted everything. Boys taken, eunuchs castrated, women sold. Exploitation wasn't chaos, it was administration. Even the law reflected it. Raping a free woman? Punishable by death. Raping an enslaved woman? Considered property damage, to be settled in coin. The body of a slave wasn't a person, it was an asset. Even executions carried sexual humiliation, castration, public exposure. Manhood erased, not just physically, but symbolically, turning punishment into spectacle. This was sex not as intimacy, not even as desire. It was policy. For centuries, generations of families lived under this machinery of exploitation. Parents scarred their own children to make them less attractive, hoping to spare them. Villages hid boys in forests. Mothers prayed their daughters would grow plain. European diplomats knew. Many looked away, eager for trade and alliances. By the 19th century, as the empire weakened, the Devshirme ended. The markets shrank, but the scars remained. Broken families, forgotten names, cultures where memory of abduction lingered long after the empire itself had fallen. One Balkan folk song, sung for centuries, laments, "They came for my brother. The fields are empty. My house has no fire." Today, the Ottoman Empire is remembered for its mosques, its conquests, its grandeur. But behind the marble domes and golden minarets was a hidden empire of flesh. Children turned into soldiers, boys mutilated into eunuchs, girls reduced to property. History often glorifies empires for what they built. But perhaps the truest measure of power lies in what they destroyed. So the question, is this: when we marvel at the magnificence of the past, do we have the courage to face its darkest truths?